Hello, Northlanders, and welcome to this special episode of the Duluth News Tribune Minute. I'm Wyatt Buckner, and we're coming to you here from the Minnesota State Fair. I'm joined here by arts and entertainment reporter Jay Gabler. Hi, Jay.
How's it going, Wyatt? You enjoying your day at the Minnesota State Fair, the Great Minnesota Get-Together, the place to be?
Oh yeah, it's been a nice mixture of weather today. Today being Thursday, the first day of the State Fair. But yeah, it's been a nice day of not crazy hot. We had a nice cloudy cloud cover for a while there. Sun coming in and out a little bit. A little warmer down here than it has been in Duluth as of late, but it's kind of a nice change of pace from the surprisingly cooler Duluth area for August in Duluth in the summer.
Yeah, people in the Twin Cities cannot believe it when they see me posting photos from Duluth and I'm wearing even like one layer, like a sweater, or let alone two layers. They're like, what is this? What is physics? What is weather? How can there be this huge temperature difference? So it is nice coming from Duluth to get a taste of that steamier, stickier weather, because it's the State Fair season, right? If you don't sweat, you're not doing it right.
Mm-hmm. And Jay, you and I, this is our second time coming to the State Fair or the Duluth News Tribune. You've been coming here for much longer before that. I think you've told me how you come here pretty much every single year.
Oh yeah, we used to, every year when we were kids, we do the State Fair and we do Valley Fair once each. So I've been coming to the State Fair my entire life, and it's really become a cherished tradition for my wife and me over the years we've been dating, which is now over a decade. We come multiple times every year. We have a lot of friends who love the fair, so it just kind of becomes a bigger deal for us every year. And so one of the first things that I said to our editors when I took this job at the News Tribune was, give me all the State Fair stories. There have got to be a lot of people in Duluth who are involved with the State Fair, a lot of stories to tell about Duluthians and Northlanders' involvement in the State Fair. So it's been really one of the most fun aspects of my job, is getting to tell those stories that connect our region with this great Minnesota get-together.
And one of our goals here today at the State Fair was to try out some of the new foods. I think it'd be literally impossible for us to try every single new food at the State Fair in one day. We did 5, and that was already pushing it a little bit, already getting a little stuffed here. We didn't even eat the whole thing of every single item, and that was us sharing them as well.
Yeah, I don't know how we did 10 last year. How are we still alive? 5 was a lot. I don't think I'm going to eat for the next 3 days.
So Jay, starting off our day, first thing we tried out was the loaded lobster fries. So first off, tell me, where can you find this, and what are your thoughts on it?
They are at Cafe Carib up by the mighty Midway. I love those. I thought, wow, it's going to be tough to top this. And honestly, we didn't top it. That was my favorite new food that we tried today. The lobster bites were succulent, delicious. They'd been cooked in butter. It was just, oily and everything you would hope for in a bite of lobster. And they've got some bacon in there as well, and then the fries to soak it up. And, honestly, I appreciated that it wasn't a crazy portion. I mean, you and I just absolutely polished off that helping of lobster. So it's nice that it's not just like way more food than you need. It's a really nice sized helping of really rich, delicious food.
Yeah, you pretty much summed it up right there. We both enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, we definitely polished those off, not just because it was the start of the day and we were hungry, but it was quite good, especially towards the bottom. As we worked our way down to the bottom of the fries, the moisture started taking a little bit more of the lobster juice into the fries, and it kind of have more of that delicious, savory combination. And yeah, the seafood was surprisingly good for a State Fair. I feel like one could have a negative connotation when it comes to seafood with State Fair, maybe kind of like gas station almost, but it's not. It's actually pretty good quality, and I would also recommend them.
Yeah, and that makes at least 2 excellent lobster items at the State Fair this year, because of course they have lobster rolls at Scenic 61, Duluth's own new Scenic Cafe's presence at the State Fair, where we also stopped today. So yeah, honestly, lobster lovers at the State Fair, you're going to be happy.
And then next, after we had, was basically like a side dish, essentially, some lobster fries. We then went over to find an entree for those fries, and we went and tried out the new fried green tomato sandwich. So let's talk about where can you find it, and what were your thoughts on it?
It is at the Farmers Union right by the main gate of the State Fair, and it's always a popular stop because they have coffee that is, for my money, the best at the State Fair. They've got nitro cold brew. You can get some maple flavoring in there, so for me, that's the number one coffee stop at the State Fair, and coffee is necessary every day. So you're going to be there anyway, let's be honest, if you're a coffee fan. And while you're there, they also have amazing food, as you would hope. It's the Farmers Union, right? So we tried the fried green tomato sandwich, and fried green tomatoes are not a food you would associate with Minnesota or the North at all. It's famously a Southern food, but it is a very local sandwich. The tomatoes are locally grown. There's locally grown lettuce. There's locally grown bacon. If you get the BLT option, there is a vegetarian option if you are not down with meat. We did try the BLT option, and honestly, I think I maybe didn't have reasonable expectations for a fried green tomato, because I was thinking, oh, BLT, you're thinking about that big slice of crispy red fresh tomatoes, traditionally what you would be biting into when you have a BLT, but no, this is fried green tomato, so you get a lot of fried, and I honestly didn't feel like I tasted the tomato at all. But that's what you're getting into there. It's a different kind of BLT.
Yeah, I think when I tried it after you, my half of the sandwich, I agree. The tomato is kind of harder to notice. I noticed it a little bit, but it tasted more like the tomato juice itself kind of soaked into the fried breading of said fried tomato. So to me, it was a bit more of a subtle taste that kind of overall complemented the sandwich as a sandwich. But I just liked it as just a simple sandwich. There's nothing that really stood out to me as like, wow, that's so unique and incredibly different than any other sandwich I've ever had. It was kind of like, it was just a sandwich.
And they've still got the schnitzel sandwich there too that debuted last year, and I thought we were kind of meh on that sandwich last year, but I guess a lot of people liked it because they brought it back this year, so that's still there for you if you missed it last year, or if you had it last year and liked it, you can get another one.
I will say, if you're comparing it to the pork schnitzel, it's less messy than the pork schnitzel. You can definitely eat this with two hands and come out relatively unscathed in terms of the cleanliness compared to the pork schnitzel. That was a beast of a sandwich.
Yeah, it is a little juicy. I mean, as with any other state fair food, be aware of what surface you're eating over. But yeah, definitely a little better structured than the schnitzel sandwich we had last year.
Mm-hmm. So next we decided to get a drink, and by we I mean more so you. It's kind of harder to share a drink, and I personally try to cut back on the sugary drinks. I already stuck with State Fair foods as it is, as delicious and tasty as they are. We went to try a cloud cooler. So Jay, first off, what is the cloud cooler, and what were your thoughts on it? And also, where can you find it?
So this is from Spinning Wild. It's by the Family Fair zone. You can't miss the stand. There's a happy little cloud hovering over the stand, and there's a happy little cloud hovering over the drink. So the cloud cooler is a lemonade with a straw sticking out of it, and the straw pierces, I don't know what you call it, a wad, a serving, a cloud maybe is the best word, of cotton candy. So I went with there are 3 different flavor options. I went with the Happy Huckleberry flavor, which comes with blackberry cotton candy.
And what was your thoughts of it?
I liked the lemonade. I will say you got more huckleberry, less lemon, so not as tart as you might be hoping for from a lemonade. It was a sort of a berry drink, not overly sweet, which I think I appreciated and a lot of people might appreciate in a cool drink at the State Fair. But I mean, you've got a big cloud of sugar right on top of it. Logistically, it was a little challenging because cotton candy is what it is, so trying to alternate sips and then bites of the cotton candy got a little gross, frankly. I had to go wash my hands in the 4-H building afterwards, but I like the flavor. I don't know that I've ever had a huckleberry before. I couldn't have told you what a huckleberry tastes like, but it was tasty. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
We then headed over to try the cheese curd stuffed pizza pretzel. So Jay, where can you find this, and what are your thoughts on it?
That's at Green Mill, also right up there by the 4-H building. My thoughts were that the crust was really tasty. You think about a pizza, you think about a crust, you expect that could be a little breadier than you would really need when you're eating a lot of other foods at the State Fair, but this crust was fantastic. It was really flaky and rich. The seasoning was excellent. The herbs, it was really great. There's a lot of pepperoni in there, so if you're a pepperoni fan, that's a tasty ingredient in this stuffed pretzel. But I was a little surprised when I took my first bite, even my second bite of this pretzel, not to find a cheese curd. There was no apparent cheese curd in the outer layer where I pulled off my first piece of this pretzel. We had to go into the folded bit right in the middle of the pretzel. There we found the cheese curds, and it was tasty, but there were maybe not as many curds in this large pretzel as I would hope for. But I mean, that said, it's a big food. It's that when they hand it to you, you kind of go, oof, so you are definitely getting plenty of food for your money there at the Green Mill, but yeah, not as cheesy perhaps as a cheese curd addict might hope for at the State Fair.
Yeah, you definitely get your money's worth with that particular food item. It's very, very filling. I agree with you that the cheese curd is kind of lackluster in there or hard to find, not as apparent. If you were just hand me this food item, I would not think that it is stuffed with cheese curds. Even with the cheesy sections, I would say it's just a cheese stuffed pretzel. And there's definitely a lot of pepperoni in there. So if you're not a fan of pepperoni, you are not going to be a fan of this pizza pretzel. I'd say I almost would argue that it has more pepperoni than cheese stuffed in there. Certainly at certain parts, and there's a little less cheese in there. Overall, I liked it. I mean, I like those kinds of foods. I have to say, though, I feel like it's not as unique as it sounds, because I feel like I've had this food item before. If you've ever been to Sam's Club, they have a $2 to $3 pizza pretzel that I feel like is of a very similar vein of pepperoni covered, got some cheese. I'd say this is the better quality version of that, but it instantly reminded me of that particular food item.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
But it certainly is filling. We definitely got our money's worth out of that one. And then we moved on to our last and likely the most controversial food item of the day. This one was not necessarily made out of a strong desire for us to have this particular item, but we felt it was very fitting for us to do as a Northland-based news organization, and that is the crispy lutefisk steam bun. So Jay, tell me about this, some would say controversial item, and where you can find it, and then what was your take on it?
I would say the lutefisk lives up to its billing. Lutefisk is the most infamous food associated with the entire state of Minnesota, and its reputation is that it is really smelly and not very good. But, it's a cult classic. It's part of a lot of people's faith traditions, whether they have faith in God or faith in lutefisk. Some people have to have it every year. But yeah, it does not have the reputation of being the least divisive food. So I was ready for a little bit of a shock, and I got it. I mean, that is not a generic bun. As soon as it is served to you, you smell the lutefisk. The lutefisk has a presence. You see the lutefisk. You know you are getting into a strong, strong, strong food experience. And the one bite that I had, it was a big bite, but I was fine with just one bite. I got that lutefisk fishy taste, a little rubbery texture, not as crispy perhaps as you might imagine, but there's lutefisk for you. I know how crispy you can possibly make lutefisk. I would say I would not recommend it to just any old person, but if you know lutefisk, you love lutefisk, well, that's what you are absolutely getting. And honestly, if you've never had lutefisk and you want to give lutefisk a try, you do get a lot of bun, you get some relish, you get some other flavors in there. This might be about the best lutefisk you're going to have.
Yeah, watching filming you try out that bite, you didn't seem like you were having the best time with it. To coin a turn of phrase from you, where normally you'd say like you're not sad about something when you are kind of liking something you're eating. You seemed a little sad about that one.
Well, it also came at the end of our morning of State Fair food eating, at which point you're kind of full. You've been having a lot of different senses activated over the course of the morning. You're maybe even a little overwhelmed, which is all great. It's the way it's supposed to be at the State Fair. But then to introduce a really strong, fishy smell to that mix at that point in your day, that took some fortitude to introduce that into my day at that point. So maybe if you are going to try the lutefisk, just go ahead and have it first thing, get it taken care of, and then go ahead and immerse yourself in the sensory chaos of the Minnesota State Fair.
And it's fair to say, I think it's fair to say that it's a controversial food dish, because before you even had a chance to try a bite of the food, you already were talking about the smell of how the smell was very pungent and hitting you. A random woman walked by, saw the food, and inquired if she could smell it, and she smelled it for herself and exclaimed, "I have to get one now." So clearly not everyone is opposed to the smell and taste as some like you are.
Yeah, and so there you go. I mean, if lutefisk is what you're looking for, they certainly deliver at Shanghai Henri's.
And then I also had a chance to try it myself. I was a little terrified going into it, especially considering I've never had lutefisk before, and I just watched you eat it. You didn't look like you had a fun time with it. So I was a little terrified going into that bite, but I was surprised at how middle I was with it. I was not offended by it or felt like my taste buds were kind of ruined for a moment. Like it tasted fine. It definitely had that rubbery taste to it a little bit. And I would say the actual lutefisk part was probably the least tasting part of the entire ensemble of food combined with it. But I thought it was fun. I could have eaten more of it, but as you said, it was kind of the end of the round, and I was definitely getting quite full at that point. But going in, maybe because my expectations were lowered after watching you try and dislike it the way you did, that I actually made it a little better in the end for me. And you were probably right. If you were to try lutefisk for the first time, this is probably the most palatable way to do so, rather than just having straight lutefisk.
And the location is maybe a little unfortunate because if you're at Shanghai Henry's or Shanghai Henry's, however you want to pronounce it, the Union Hmong Kitchen is right there. You're right there at one of the best food options at the State Fair, one of the most raved about new additions to the State Fair, in years and years. So to say, you know what, I'm going to pass on Union Hmong Kitchen and instead get this lutefisk bun, that's a choice you're making. I will say, you get, 4 of these steamed buns with your order of lutefisk buns. So there is one for every member of a 4-person family. So everybody can have their own lutefisk experience, which is, nice if that's what you're getting in for.
And if you want to look at the foods for yourself, see the video of Jay trying out these foods, you can visit duluthnewstribune.news to check out his article where he writes about, and then we have video of each of the different foods that we tried. But Jay, that wasn't the only thing we were here for. We won't go as in depth for this podcast episode, but just give us a slight taste of the other story that you put together from today.
So we went and stopped by Scenic 61, which is the food trailer from the New Scenic Cafe, Duluth's own beloved restaurant just up the North Shore there. And so, they've been at the State Fair for a few years now with their distinctive Airstream trailer. You can't miss it. And so I was curious to talk to a couple of staffers there to learn about their State Fair experience. And one of the most striking things I learned is that it took them 17 years to get a presence at the State Fair. Apparently there's an audition process where you basically need to make a pitch to the State Fair powers that be and say, okay, here's the food we're going to bring, here's why it is different and needed at the fair. And it took them 17 years to figure out everything they needed to figure out to get into the State Fair. And so they hope they will be here for a good long time. Of course, if you are in Duluth and you don't happen to make it to the State Fair, or you want to try Scenic 61's offerings, which currently include a lobster roll and sashimi tacos, if you want to try those at another time, you can often see that Airstream trailer at events, for example, at Bayfront Festival Park and other events up in the Northland.
All right, Jay, thank you so much. And if you want to see that article for yourself, you can visit duluthnewstribune.com. Thank you so much for listening to this special episode of Duluth News Tribune Minute. We'll catch you next time.